This week we got the DC Comics Harley Quinn Fartacular special for April Fool's Day, which we were guaranteed by the writer Joanne Sarah was not a fart fetish book, which is most certainly a fart fetish book. This is a book with simply no audience. It's not for kids because it's way too sexual in nature. In fact, the character of Harley Quinn has been overly sexualized in basically everything that DC and Warner Brothers do. Go see the Harley Quinn show on Max or whatever. So the character's not really appropriate for this if it was aimed at kids. Are we to believe that women are really into huffing other women's farts? I just don't believe that to be the case. And it's certainly not a comic book for traditional superhero comic book fans because there's no superheroics in the book. It's a weird pseudo slice of life, poop gag, lesbian romance book with Harley trying to find her way into like not the heart of Ivy, but like to the fart of Ivy, I guess. I guess that's the joke or whatever. And people should probably be fired for greenlighting this. We actually have an idea of who those people would be because we do get the credits page. And it even says Marie Javins Presents. It's not DC Comics Presents. It's Marie Javins. She's the one that greenlit this. Apparently this was her idea. So Marie Javins should squarely be the first person that we blame for this. The group editor is Rob Levin. I would say that you greatly failed on this one. It doesn't even have a joke that lands in it. It tries to be funny, but it's not funny. The other editor, Ariano Turturro, you're supposed to be an editor. You should be looking out for the best interests of DC Comics. You probably should have known none of this ever should have been printed. And then I'll give James Reed a pass because he's the assistant editor. He's not fully in charge of all this. He was probably just doing spell check and making sure the pages were coming out on time. If there's a positive about the book, the art is perfectly in line with what it needs to be. It's not great, it's very cartoony, and it tries to sell the not funny gags throughout it. The first few pages of the book, right there is the proof that this is a fart fetish book. As soon as it opens up, Ivy's watering her plants, bends over, farts. Harley Quinn is just over the moon. Oh my goodness, did you toot? Oh, sure you did. Smells like roses. And then goes to her ass to go and inhale more farts, asking her to do it again because this is, in fact, a fart fetish book. In fact, Harley Quinn goes on a series of adventures trying to find people that were also in love with farts so that she can convince Ivy to fart in her face some more. And, of course, she calls it eau de poule. She's begging for the water of the crap, the poop, the stool within this comic book. And it is not a vaguely disguised fart fetish comic book. It is right out there in the open, and it is the impetus of the entire fucking book. And of course, DC Comics, and specifically Joanne Stair, lied about that. That's what it is. That's the joke. And it doesn't really land very well. It's in the wrong freaking market. I do think a fart joke, poop joke book is certainly apropos around April Fool's Day, aimed at 5 or 6 year old boys, or maybe even girls or whatever. But this is going to be presented in a market that is almost exclusively men between the ages of like 25 and 45 that don't want this book, and it's just going to die on the shelf. But of course, it has to be $8 because it's a special bonus, extra-sized Harley Quinn adventure of her trying to huff farts the entire time. It gets worse and worse as you go throughout the book. At one point, Harley ends up recruiting Plastic Man to her adventure because she wants to use Plastic Man, I guess, as a suit to capture all of her farts. So then she could like steal the fart poetry from James Joyce, which we'll get to here in a second, from his wife's ghost that is haunted by his farts. And it's just an entire page of really unfunny, unsuccessful fart jokes. I got the toots, the bubbles, the Brussels sprout blues, the squeakers, the cheesers, the green apple nasties. There's a duck in my pants and he's angry. I just ripped a big Barda. Probably the closest thing to a successful joke in the entire page, but we're not done. There's a canary in my coal mine. My sphincter's a 5.3 on the Richter scale. You know, the thunder from down under. I'm serving up a Rudy Tooty fresh and fruity breakfast with extra eggs. I need to clean up on aisle me because she can't stop farting. And of course, the reader stand-in on this one is Plastic Man, who is literally trying to kill himself because these jokes just aren't funny. I guess in the sense of the comic book, it's because it smells so bad. But really, he just wants to die because he's having to listen to an entire page of Joanne Stare not be funny about how often Harley Quinn is farting because she's got this curse of the fart poetry thing because she wants to use the poetry to show Poison Ivy that farting is okay, and she loves her for how much she farts. And I'm not joking. That's really the book. That's what Marie Javins, Rob Levin, Ariano Tuturo greenlit and actually went out there and paid real human money. They paid dollar bills, likely put it right into her bank account for Joanne Stare, to make something that is embarrassing to DC Comics in the worst ways possible. It's not entertaining. It's not funny. It's the worst thing to happen to Harley Quinn since Peg Leg Beyonce in the T. Franklin Harley Quinn animated series comic books that she was writing. Remember those, how bad those were? I would put this on par with that, and maybe just a little bit worse, because the crime here is it's not funny. Fart jokes can be funny. Poop jokes certainly can be funny. Sophomoric humor can be good, but you actually have to be able to write them. And this is a crime against comedy, is the really big fault in this book, because it's supposed to be the April Fool's gag book that ends up blowing up, obviously, in DC's faces and makes them look pretty fucking stupid once again, while they actually have a little bit of momentum. I don't know why they keep doing this to themselves. I mentioned James Joyce. He's an Irish poet, I believe. He wrote a poem. It's a real poem. It's about his wife, and in there he does mention that he likes her farts. But there's a lot more to that poem as well. Like, it's inferred that he was like spanking the monkey or whatever when he was writing it. And even Harley Quinn, when she touches the poetry, mentions that it's sticky, i.e., like I said, it's not for kids. And it's them, I don't know, in a jacuzzi or something, talking about how into farts James Joyce is. And he even is smelling Harley Quinn's ass at one point, trying to huff all of her fart fumes in it. And this is what's passed off as satirical, funny commentary on this man's poetry about farts. Well, the poetry includes farts. It wasn't exclusively about farts. If you want to go check it out, it is a weird fucking poem. And who is this for? Who is this? What audience does this serve? What does this serve for the purpose of DC Comics? An $8 comic book with the splash page of Harley Quinn bathing in beans, talking about how much she enjoys farts, with a dead poet trying to literally huff them directly out of her ass. Like, can anyone explain this stuff to me? Because you can't make it up just how bad this is. But of course, it's not only poop and fart and bean jokes, like beans, the magical fruit, the more you eat, the more you toot, the kind of jokes that you told when you were maybe 4 years old. We also get some patriarchy humor, because Harley is upset. I can't believe you're making such a big deal of this. It's just a toot talking to Ivy. Men do it all the time. They make us ashamed. Don't be in the patriarchy, babe. Of course, Batman has to chime in. The fact that Batman is this comic book is an even greater embarrassment to DC Comics. He's only the flagship fucking character of the entire franchise. I don't care what you do with your bodies, as long as it isn't against the law. And then Poison Ivy knees him in the face and says, men make the laws. Even though he said, I want you to have body autonomy, as long as what you're doing isn't illegal, I have no problems with what you're doing. Apparently he was the bad guy there, because the patriarchy is the reason that women apparently aren't allowed to fart. Are women not allowed to fart? Like, my wife doesn't fart all the time, but when she does fart, I don't get mad at her. The boys don't go, oh my goodness, Bobby, how could you fart? You know, farting just kind of happens. I have personally Dutch ovened my wife, but I'll never do that again because she didn't think that joke was funny. So maybe fart jokes just aren't really all that good when you're an adult, but this thing is an entire mess. It is a complete embarrassment to DC Comics, and like I said, people should be fired for thinking this was a good idea. DC needs good, creative ideas. The fact that they're letting their main character get kneed in the face because he wants body autonomy for women doesn't really appear to make any type of message that makes any type of sense whatsoever. And there are jokes thrown in throughout this thing that aren't, I guess, poop and fart jokes or patriarchy jokes, but none of them land. It's all so bad. At one point, as I mentioned, she's talking to the ghost wife of James Joyce because she has the poetry. I mean, they are a mite sticky, talking about the fact that there's jizz, because the guy does describe jerking off while he was writing the poetry, but cursed I would not lie, we Dutch are very honest, blunt as you say, which is why I must tell you, you look like a stripper if a stripper was a baby. Now that is an absolute winner of a joke. And then Harley, to emphasize how funny the joke was in her response, "Aw, shucks, that's exactly what I was going for." So apparently Harley Quinn dressing like a stripper baby is also one of the really great jokes in this comic book that not even the reviewers can pretend was funny. Geek Dad, who gives every book that he reviews a 9.0 or above, essentially across the board, gave this book a 5.0 because it's that bad. That's when you know that your comic book is the drizzling shits. If Geek Dad can't convince himself that it's amazing, you have written a comic book that is so bad nobody should be forced to read it. And of course, I did this because I don't want you to have to do it. A lot of people were curious about the Harley Quinn Fartacular. It's actually worse than you anticipated. And apparently it is scratch and sniff. So as you're going through, you can smell all the farts that Harley Quinn is unleashing, and maybe even the farts that Ivy was unleashing that got Harley Quinn so hot and bothered that she literally wanted to huff them directly out of her asshole. $8 for this. Embarrassment. People need to take their job seriously. There needs to be real accountability at DC Comics and Marvel Comics across the comic book medium. There is a place for awesome, funny joke books within comic books, but they actually have to be funny. There have to actually be jokes. There has to be an audience for that type of joke book when you're delivering it. None of that exists for this, and I hope nobody bought it. I hope none of you had to suffer through this stupid book. I hope none of you had to scratch and sniff it and be a part of the joke, because the joke was on you. You spent $8 for something that was truly atrocious, just as bad, if not worse, than what T. Franklin was doing with Harley Quinn earlier. If you appreciate this kind of honest perspective on comic books, because you can't get it everywhere these days, a lot of shills out there, and you would like to keep the message, the mission of Think Critical YouTube moving forward, the best place to do that is on Think Critical Patreon. There's a link in the video description. There's a button right here. You come be a part of the family. You support the mission. The videos keep rolling, and you get extra bonus podcasts, awesome conversations that you will see nowhere else but Think Critical Patreon. Hope to see you there very, very soon.